Hi, this is Dr. Scott Young, and today we have Brandon Fellows on a J6er. I mean, this is a really kind of cool thing. I have tingles on him. We were praying beforehand because he's got so many things going on, and there's so many things so much screwiness that's happening in his life. And we need to be praying for people like this. All these people who are struggling through life and getting unjustly messed with. We just pray the blood of Jesus over these people. But we're going to do that, and we're going to have that conversation coming right up. So, Brandon, how you doing, man?
Well, I'm all right. A couple days I've got modification hearing coming up. They're going to be trying to ask for house arrest, and it's with the same corrupt judge that I had my entire pre-trial and trial proceedings with. So we'll see how
Yeah.
that goes.
Yeah, well, we just praying about that, and now you have thousands of people that are going to be praying over this issue as well, too. So that's why, guys, I want you to, I'm motivating you to step forward in prayer for Brandon right now. Okay, no matter where you are in that circumstance, you can be a part of that kind of prayer wall around him with that too. So let's talk a little bit about what's gone on with your life with that. So let's go backward in time, and I'm going to bring this up on the screen. We're not going to play. I'm going to let it play with you, with it muted here. But this is a stupid inside edition kind of thing, showing you in the background with that too. Do you want to talk a little bit about some of that stuff?
Oh, of course, yeah. Anything you want to talk about?
Yeah. So go ahead and just kind of talk about what happened. And there's no sound, by the way. So.
Okay. Yeah, so I was invited to go to a Fauci hearing by some friends. I have in DC, and I almost didn't go. I only had 2 hours sleep, but I was, oh, man, I really do not like Fauci. I want to go hear what happens at this hearing. I understood he was going to be on the testimony. I showed up, and I mean, you don't know. There's about 4 rows, 3 to 4 rows of seating, and long rows. And I just happened to be seated by the Capitol Police right in front of the camera. And I turned to the guy next to me, whose name was Ivan Raiklin. Apparently, he's also pretty famous. And I said, "Hey, are we gonna be on camera?" He said, "Oh yeah, we'll be right on." So, I would have made these faces regardless. But of course, I was also trying to kind of convey my thoughts and all what I also feel like many Americans feel as Fauci was spewing his lies or being overly dramatic or trying to play the victim card when I feel like the American people are the true victims.
Right.
It was hard for me to have sympathy for him. It's a challenge, and unfortunately, eventually they've twisted it since, and this is what my revocation hearing is about. My modification hearing this Monday. It stems all from the faces I was making from behind Fauci. Because, long story short, they have shared that I was not only removed from the building, removed from the hearing, but also the building, which is not true. I voluntarily stood up. I was told by Capitol Police and others we were allowed one verbal interruption, we'd get a warning, and upon a second one, then we would be kicked out. That was my only interruption, and I decided to do it while I was on my voluntary way out. And because they knew that I was a January 6th defendant, they had found out along the way, according to my probation officer, um, they said, or they were more cautious with me. And so as I was out in the queue where it was where I could have maybe more easily reached Fauci, I think they were just ensuring this dangerous, nonviolent insurrectionist with no criminal history. So I use insurrectionist for quotes too.
Yeah.
Wasn't
Right.
going to attack Fauci. So
Well, I mean, let's bring this up on the screen. This is the idiot, petition against you, right? And oops, sorry, that's the Lloyd Brunson one. Sorry, I was doing another one
that's
here.
okay.
But basically, on there, I mean, they're talking about. I mean, we can talk about this in different ways, but basically, um, that you were in the Capitol, that you sat in a different area with this too, and I'm going, at worst, this would be, a relatively, a misdemeanor conversation, right? Something you would just kind of dismiss, like someone's doing some mischief with it too, and that's really what that would be. Like, let's say, a worse one would be if you got in a fight in the Capitol and you were punching someone. Well, that maybe that would move it up to a felony because that would be an assault. But there was
Yeah.
nothing that happened in that way too.
Correct. And they actually allow you during those hearings to make a verbal interruption. And I was silent the whole time. Now, my faces were, saying everything I
Yeah,
needed to
but
say.
even
But,
your original one, I mean, even the
oh,
original
oh,
stuff
yeah.
that put you in jail. And what
Sorry.
time? When was that happening? Was that 21 or so?
Yes, January 6th, 2021. And I've got videos on my X of authors giving me directions, verbal directions inside it, and saying, "Oh yeah, the statues are over there.
Right.
Here's what each statue represents." And the worst thing that I did was they had given us rules. Hey, don't go in any areas that are being locked off or guarded. That was like one of the 6 rules they gave me, 5 or 6 rules. And so the officer then walks past this open door. I go inside, I go charge my phone with a whole bunch of other people. Everybody else is inside this area all the time. And I thought it was a people's house. I also didn't know, hey, what's going on? Is this a sort of like peaceful kind of like, hey, we're not dealing with Biden. What's going on? Nobody's conveying anything. It's called the people's house. And as I'm charging my phone, people are lighting up a joint, and I'm like, well, that's interesting. They pass it to me. At first, I say no, but they're like, dude, how many people are going to be able to say they smoke weed in the Capitol? And I was like, all right, fine. And I took 2 hits, and then I passed it. That is the worst that I did, and they gave me 35 months in prison in mostly in a domestic terrorist wing for that. And now
And
they've got me on
because,
3 years probation.
but see,
Yeah.
no, did there was a conviction, or was there a real jury hearing
There,
kind of thing?
there was a conviction through these jurors, which, by the way, when they asked during voir dire, which is a jury selection process, hey, how many of you have been negatively affected by this? By January 6th, the entire room raises their hand. This one woman screams, "I was worried when they brought bombs." I'm like, what the heck is this lady talking about? The other one, the forger, she was best friends, and she was a previous intern at the DOJ, and she was best friends with the chief of staff, she admitted, at the Capitol, and called them crying on the day of the Capitol. So this is just,
Well, I mean, I had an employee. I mean, we're in Tulsa. I have an employee, a past employee. Okay, January 6th is happening, and I'm hearing about it. I don't know enough about what's going on. I don't know anything, that's happening. I know it's a seminal day because I knew some people. I know plenty of people that are there, but she's sitting there almost like shaking, and she's a little lefty, and I'm going, what are you talking about? I mean, did you guys get all shaky and pissed off in Minnesota? Did you do it in Wisconsin? Did you do it in Seattle? That is literally taking over the streets, people dying on the streets in 2020. And yet we're freaking out about, people. I mean, one of my favorite videos, and I'll have it here, is an older woman. She's got to be in her like 60s or whatever, and she's kind of meandering, looking around everything. Like, what's the problem?
exactly. And it's just because the media has told them how to feel, and told them this is the worst thing ever. And I mean, they said it's the worst attack on the Capitol since the Civil War, but also that's not true, because one of those riots, the BLM and Antifa riots in April 2020 here, they
Right,
had 200 officers injured by a much, much, much smaller crowd. I mean, insanely smaller crowd.
right.
And they made Molotov cocktails there. They made car bombs. I mean, it was seen by these people who did it. And remember what these same politicians that claimed victim, and also the same media anchors that are decrying January 6th, they made a name for Donald Trump and called him Bunker Boy, and everybody laughed. But on January 6th, they had about 40 less injuries. We also know that there were Antifa members there. The FBI documents have come out
Right.
admitting that. and that were trying to get as many people injured, Trump supporters and police. And on top of that, the police didn't give dispersal warnings like they had been trying with the others. It was like they wanted us. I mean, it's like they wanted us there. I was around hundreds of officers. I not only was never told not to go anywhere, I was literally being given directions inside the building, and I have it posted up on video as video. So
Well,
very sketchy.
when we have a incredibly long speech, more than 30-minute walk, 30-minute walk away, right? Trump is doing I mean, from what I've talked to a lot of people with this, they said it was delayed for, long times, which he tends to delay things. And then he kind of meandered in the speech, and it goes on for a while, and he goes, let's peacefully walk up to the Capitol. So you were there at that speech, right?
Yes, I was actually in VIP row 5 as he's saying this. Peacefully and patriotically marched down to the Capitol to let our voices be heard, was the exact quote that he said in person. And people like, they planned an insurrection. Like, no, we didn't even, like most of us, like myself, I didn't know we were going to the Capitol to go protest
So
whatsoever.
you
But
just thought
also,
you're coming for just to hear him talk and
mhm,
kind of be there to be support of him. I mean,
yeah.
so what did you hope when you're just thinking you're sitting in the VIP kind of session? What did you hope that was going to accomplish by J6?
Yeah, well, I will share this first. This is at the White House grounds. Now, even locals around here, locals who have been here for 30 plus years, they're like, oh, they think that this rally was held at the Capitol, and the White House and the Capitol are the same building. It's very surprising when
Yeah, it
people
wasn't.
think it.
Yeah,
So it's about 16 and 19 blocks away.
right.
Um, almost 2 miles if you take, Pennsylvania Constitution down
And it's
there.
going to take you 20, 30 minutes to make that walk up
Yeah,
to
and we're
the Capitol.
Yeah, and we're walking slow too because as Capitol Police and FBI shared in their documents, it was jam packed. The streets were jam packed
Right,
full,
right.
and a lot of people are standing still because there's people protesting in the street. Like they got signs, and it's more celebratory. There's even cops, high fiving on the way to the Capitol. People aren't aware what's going on until we get down there. Now, you asked what my goal was for showing up, what I hope to accomplish, right? I was thinking this was going to be Trump's last rally. My friends had told me it was very fun, but I also knew that the past 2 times in DC, Antifa had showed up, a group that attacks Trump supporters. And when Trump said it's going to be wild, I figured, hey, I saw last videos, and it looked like Antifa really got, when they came to attack, they really got it handed to them. I figured, hey, they're going to be really mad. I want to show up for this and defend people because Trump supporters tend to be older. At least those are the statistics that I was aware of at the time. But also, I wanted to show support for the president. I mean, it was a great 4 years.
Sure.
I was not very fond of this mandatory lockdown, Supreme Court packing, mandatory mask mandates. The Biden administration was talking about like, no, no, no. I want to go. Hey, look into the ballots. I want to show support in numbers. Like, hey, look into these. Look into what's going on. I wasn't fully convinced that the election was stolen, but I was like, all right, I saw some sketchy stuff. So yeah.
So, so we have January 6th. I mean, now, when we go backward in time with this, too, um, we go backward in time and we're talking about, what Fauci is about. And obviously, Fauci is that main point. But then they kind of, frame this narrative around you and almost everyone there. And you're walking up to the Capitol. You walk up at, past 9:30 or so, correct?
I walk up to the Capitol
I
past
mean,
9:30.
you and everyone else were walking up. It was past 9:30. I mean, it was later than that, wasn't it, or so?
Well, I'll say this: so Trump stopped speaking sometime around like 1:15 p.m.
Okay,
I got to the Capitol right around like 2:30 ish p.m.
okay.
And the Capitol grounds, by the way, the gates had been begun to be removed by both the Capitol Police and also
So no
the,
one pushed it over. It was. I mean, there's clear videos of it.
some people did push it over, but this all happened from some agitators at about 12:45 p.m. So when the people that are over at Trump's rally get over there and they get to the grounds, they're looking around and saying, they're not saying it, they're just noticing there's no barriers, there's no nothing. Which,
And that's consistent with every single person I talk to. I mean, I have talked to a bunch of you guys. I mean, by the time you're getting there, there was some stuff going on. There was a group up in front, and stuff is happening around you, but you aren't even there yet
mhm,
into that situation, which says you're not even part of the instigator.
mhm.
Okay,
Most,
right,
most people, most people that arrive would not see a lot of this stuff. They're getting there, and so when you get there after, like if you're like myself, you leave and you slowly make your way down to the Capitol in this jam-packed crowd that's moving very slowly. Some people are positioned in place. You're looking at the vendors that are along the way. There's
sure,
many vendors. By the time you get down there, there's not even police because little did you know, they had moved inside the building. They moved inside, and when you get there, you're seeing nothing. You're not seeing signs. You're not seeing barriers, and people all around you are saying, "Hey, it's People's House. We're allowed to be here." Which, to me, real quick, I'm from Albany, New York, the capital. We have a Capitol building there, and despite it being a state that doesn't offer a lot of freedom, such as like Texas or Florida or even Michigan, you can go up and touch that building at any time of the day.
sure you can.
There's Yeah, and also there's other states, because keep in mind there's people from all over the country, like Michigan, where you can actually walk in to a place that's not called the People's House with firearms. You can go inside
Correct.
those buildings.
And
So,
by the way, there have been riots and interruptions in many of the state houses.
mhm,
And way more scary than anything that could have happened. And
mhm,
you're going, so what you're saying here, and I had sorry about 9:30. I'm wrong.
that's okay.
Lawmakers are meeting at 1 ish. Um, which, by the way, one of the guys that I don't have the exact situation. Well, I might have something here, but it's a file. If I could bring it up here on my computer, I'll try to do that. It's there is so much craziness happening around you that doesn't make any sense. For instance, I'm going to try to see if I can bring it in here because it takes a little effort to do. Sorry about that. But what one of the problems that happens is that we have people that are coming to you, and inside the Capitol they're meeting, but J6 is occurring around them, and they think that there's everything's going to hell in a handbasket in essence, right?
The people inside, they convey that, it seems, through the footage.
Right,
Yes.
right. So it's all carefully, curated, to explain something that really wasn't occurring here.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes.
So, well, what I was thinking about too, one of the things that really caught me in this way is Langford is a senator and he's speaking at this exact same time at 1 o'clock. Um, and I actually have had long, detailed conversations with him and talking about the timing that all of you went through. And he actually one of the things that I heard him actually say, and I have a letter that I can't really pull up in StreamYard here, but it actually stipulates the official timing other than the real timing, which tells me that he is little cabal boy and was bought off just like every single one of them with it too.
Hmm.
And yeah, I mean, so these people were obviously, expecting something. They wanted something to happen. Nancy Pelosi has stated that she turned down the Capitol Police from coming, right?
The National Guard, the National Guard.
National Guard. Okay, sorry. Yeah, right.
And, and I can add something else in too. So during my, real quick, if I may,
Yeah.
during my trial, I got to cross-examine Captain Mendoza, and my corrupt judge even shared I had impeached her testimony. And it all just happened just kind of naturally. It was beautiful. Her name's Captain Mendoza, and she was in charge of preparations for, you know, setting up the grounds, in
Sure.
bringing X amount of officers there, and also deciding how many of them would receive gas masks and riot shields. For what, according to Capitol Police and Secret Service, they had tons and tons of intelligence suggesting that something like this was going to happen, and yet out of a police force of just the Capitol Police, there's Metropolitan Police, which is like the third largest, if I remember, in the country, and most well adept to protest because protests happen like 300 plus days out of the year here. But the Capitol Police alone has 2,000 officers, and they brought under 400. I forget the exact number, but and they only gave two platoons or 90 people uh, what's called CDU gear, which is the gas mask, the protective stuff, and ready for an actual riot. Everybody else, they didn't get it. They didn't hand their bullhorns out to help with dispersal warnings like they typically do. They didn't turn on the speakers that are able to be blasted out for 10 blocks away to tell people to leave, which they have and have utilized in the past. And she ended up lying and saying she had brought all these officers in,
The
all
Capitol
2,000
Police
officers.
woman
Yeah.
had lied about that, right?
Yes, and long
Okay.
story short, on cross-examination, one of her officers said he didn't arrive till 3. And I was like, well, wait a second. I thought your boss, Mendoza, said that you guys were all there ahead of time in preparation. He's like, oh, no, I didn't even get told when I entered the building what was happening. It wasn't until I noticed people walking around the Capitol, protesters, that he realized what was going on. Nobody told him. And that's how terrible it was. So total lie on their part. And trying to cover it up at a trial hearing.
So, I mean, there are also, when you're in jail and you're put in a special portion of it, in a, terrorist section with that. And yet, there have been many people, many Congress and senators who tried to get in, who were conservatives, tried to get in and were blocked from getting in. Is that correct? Or,
That is correct. Yeah, that happened once, and they almost accomplished it a second time. But they were very adamant, and they refused to leave that second time, and then they finally brought us in. And that's a story I have because I was inside there at the time.
right. And so, you obviously, you're not a criminal. I mean, you haven't done anything ever, before. And so, when this is happening, what's happening to, I mean, I know you're a believer in Christ, and what's happening to your spirit? What are you feeling like when you're in there?
Well, it was really tough because 2020, I'm up in New York. They shut down the churches already, and you're trying to, for me, I've always struggled with sort of like my political beliefs and Christianity, and I'm like, oh, it's like because sometimes I'm like, oh man, the founding fathers would have done this, but other times I'm like, oh, but Jesus would have done this. I'm like, where's the line?
Correct.
How much abuse do we allow? And that I'm thinking that also while inside the jail. I'm like, so that was tough because in the domestic terrorist wing, we're not allowed to have church like the other inmates were. And so you're just sitting there, and oftentimes, for a long time, they didn't give you a Bible. And it's just like, man, I was like, sometimes you just handle it. It's tempting to not handle it the wrong way. Um, and yeah, so it was tough at times, but also, I mean, those terrible times. I mean, even without the Bible, you can, I would go out and pray, and that would help me through the terrible conditions that we run. Not seeing family for 2 years, not seeing the sun for a long period of time, not having fruit for 2 years with people like, oh, boo-hoo. We literally had people getting scurvy like pirates.
Yeah.
And
You
it's,
don't get fruit. It is a really bad thing in your body.
yeah,
I mean,
yes. So it was, yeah, we were having all sorts of issues developing in there. And those are just a few examples of the stuff we were going through. So
and see, what I want to do with you here, and I want to kind of go over this and jump in with the situation is so we have the J6, the absolute criminal behavior that government did. I mean, communist level stuff that they did over you, you and everyone else. But people don't really haven't connected the why on this stuff. And why is, because if you're a normie, or if you're barely into your patriot kind of viewpoint, you don't understand the why of this situation. I want to show you something and we'll see what you think about this with this too. Um, I've met Lloyd Brunson. He and I have talked about this kind of thing. This is a court case that anyone can kind of look up. But basically, what it is in the court case is that in January 6th, what they actually stipulate is that based upon the Seventh Amendment, when there are allegations against someone in an election, what you have to do is that you have to meet, and the time frame has always been set from January 6th to the 16th. All they had to do is have an open conversation about electoral malfeasance, in essence. And so what they're saying is like, do we really do this? So another statement that happens, and it's talking about objections, like Pence bringing up objections. Langford had said he was going to object to January 6th, and he almost did, and then changed his mind afterward to vote with Biden and Pence, who has always been the traitor with that too. And so we're saying, wait a second. So the J6, response to what was going on for you was a ploy. It was in essence, I would call it maybe a false flag. Does that make any sense to you? Or do you have any feelings about some of that stuff? Did you look at that area?
So I know that, for instance, the left has said that, hey, there was nothing Mike Pence could have done, but then they later on quietly changed the rules. I don't know if you remember this. It was like 2022,
Right.
and it said, oh no, he couldn't have done anything. But do I think that they used this event and amplified it, or used it as an excuse to stop people from looking into it? I definitely have thought that for a while. But even if they did or didn't, I mean, if it was genuine or not, I mean, just because a riot happens doesn't mean that you just say, "Oh, never mind, we don't want to look into all." It's
Sure.
just weird to me that they wouldn't want to look into the claims of, where things may have been gone weird, or where there may not have been integrity in the elections over in this state or over in this jurisdiction.
Sure.
It
Sure.
is fishy to me. I'll say that.
Well, I mean, we have Raffensperger, who's the Georgia Secretary of State, who's supposedly a believer, and then says over and over again that 2020 was the most perfect election in essence, ever. And you're going, I mean, we have video evidence in the stadium that it isn't anything like that. And all of that is the culmination of the states getting together and ratifying. See, January 6th to January 13th is about, or 16th is about ratification of and a certification of what occurred. And so on the background here, we have this situation that comes up, and and it could have delayed them by a day or something. They could have pushed it off, but they chose not to. Showed up in that same day, called it a riot, and then changed all their minds with this stuff too. And you were just the pawn that was being thrown to the wolves, in essence. And this kind of stuff makes me so mad, in my spirit against this government. This is the kind of stuff, and the lies have been falling apart for Biden and all the rest of the administration. And we see this and I go, wait a second, why aren't we spending any time going backward and talking about it?
Mm-hmm. And I will say, what's beautiful is how they've released a lot of the footage since this has happened, and I think a lot of the stuff getting out there, I've just seen a dramatic change, because I was very, very angry for a while, because these people, I mean, people just imagine like it's a small room and people are just beating up on officers and cheering for it, and I'm like, all right, there's also other footage out there, guys. Why is the mainstream media focusing on just these random clips of a multi-hour long event inside this one area, when there's tons of different areas, tons of different times to look at. But the point is that I'm getting to is, people have finally been seeing a lot of what's happened, and the sentiment towards January 6th defendants has largely, I mean, it's a total 180 story. Because
Right.
when this started, I was arrested January 16th, 2021. And it was
Interesting
just,
date. I mean, why the
yeah,
16th? I mean, we could have said a 13th or 28th, or I mean, pick the other date. It's the 10 days. It's 10 days after they should have done something.
yes. And again, the Capitol Police never said they have a requirement historically to arrest people, or sorry, give people a warning that they are breaking the
Sure.
law because of how confusing that place is to people. It's like the only place where you have to be proven that like you were told, hey, you're breaking the law before they can actually arrest you and have the charges stick. And they didn't
Correct.
do that, but and then a totally different agency arrests you, the FBI. So it was very strange. But yeah, they were able to find me pretty quickly because I didn't think I was breaking any laws. And so when a news crew was outside of the building, I told them what my name was and where I was from. So that's why it was so easy for them to find,
Right.
yeah, find
Right.
me out. So
It was easy just to it was easy to railroad you in that way. And yet other people got out earlier than you. I mean, when you were kind of seeing that,
oh yeah.
what were you feeling about what was your feeling about that?
Well, they like to punish people who try to go to trial, and a lot of these plea deals, they'll say, "Hey, you got to, say Donald Trump told you to go there," and
Oh,
and also you're told, "Hey," your lawyer says, "Hey, if you bash Trump and say you were fooled," and I've heard this from many people, but also they try to come to me, "Hey, if you bash Trump, they're going to give you a good plea deal if you do this," and I'm like, "No." So when I was in jail, real quick, I was offered I was being refused to leave because they said I was too dangerous, despite that I have no criminal history and that these people had never even alleged that I did anything violent that day. I walked in, took selfies with officers, and left. But at the same time, as they were arguing I'm too dangerous to be released back out into society, despite that I was a business owner for since 2018 for multiple businesses, they said, "Hey, you can sign this plea deal for misdemeanor trespassing, and you can leave." And they offered me 3 times their plea deals, one of which was the misdemeanor, ever since October 2021. And yet they still didn't release me. The thing that they wanted me to share was Donald Trump told me to go in. I knew I was trespassing, and then you don't get to appeal it. And then it's just stuck on your record. I didn't sign it, and so they gave me 35 months, and I could have been done as early as October 2021, but instead I got out May 2024 with 3 years of probation. So,
yeah, and then it's I mean, it is fascinating. The world is, they're trying to get more sympathy. Then we have the Fauci idiot. And we're trying to get more sympathy for Fauci that, he has been, targeted. And yet we know this boy is a liar from the pit of hell. And, this sickness that he's created, and me as a medical professional kind of thing, listen, I know for a fact the day that I heard people doing masks, I'm like, have you ever been in surgery? Do you know why you're wearing a mask? And people
mhm.
look at me like, well, because they said it's to stop the disease. And I'm going, you don't understand. Why does a surgeon, nurse, other technicians, other people, why do they walk into surgery wearing a mask? And no one wants to answer that question. I mean, we're told to do something, but we're not given the background. It's like I have no ability to build anything. I'm looking at walls around me, right? And if someone said everyone had in America has to build, a concrete wall, I'd be like, okay, I don't even know how to do that, right? I mean, and if you don't give me instructions why I'm supposed to do it with what kinds of, capabilities, I'd be like, well, why am I doing that, right? Why do I have to have concrete? It's cold. It doesn't feel good, right? If you made that kind of thing up. And we have this, so Fauci talks first about mask issues, and I'm looking at the going, a mask is a spit shield. It's
Mhm.
never been anything more than that. It's that when you talk, you don't spit on the patient. It is not about air to air transmission problems, right? And so then he defends that. And then he pushes in the vaccine kind of thing. And then he goes farther and says things, they bring up things like asymptomatic, which as a diagnostician myself, I mean, symptoms lead to a disease. You'd never have anything like this, right? And so symptoms always lead to a disease. Asymptomatic is the dumbest statement in the history of the world. I mean, it's like symptoms always lead to disease. And I go, why do we have to talk about that? But it's funny that here we have Brandon who walks in to J6, just is sitting there. I mean, you've seen your clips, I've seen all that stuff. You're sitting there like going, okay, if you wanted to say, get your butt out of here, you'd have said fine. Right? I mean,
Yeah.
and if you don't want to get out of here, well, then that might be resisting arrest. But they didn't claim that one because they could have gone on that one if they wanted to. And yet they're now you're seeing this kind of turnaround for people in the world. Then you sit behind Fauci and listen. Some people would call it serendipity. I call it like God, pushing out how stupid the world is with that too.
Mm-hmm.
And your faces are just fascinating because I'd have been like, what? I mean, the same kind of thing. You did other
Yeah.
ones that were funnier, I thought.
Yeah, and it's funny too because the leftists at the same time, I mean, they see it in real time. Oh my God, this guy's so dangerous. But I'm sitting there just making faces, and I'm just simply, letting my voice be heard in the Capitol as police have allowed me to. And I'm following again, just like on January 6th. I was following all the instructions they laid out for me.
And you
And
have to sign in when you go to the Capitol, right? I
you have
mean,
to go through security checkpoints and everything, so you don't actually have to sign in this area. But they tell you the
but a
rules, like, hey,
security check-in is to look at your ID, correct?
no, they're just making sure you don't have a gun.
Okay, all right. So,
Yeah.
but they would have had. I mean,
But they
listen,
have
they would
facial
have.
recognition, and the media people and the
Right,
Capitol Police eventually got warned because this is live. And I've got some Antifa stalkers out here in DC because I live in DC now.
right.
And I saw early on they're calling the Capitol Police, they're calling the probation office. They're like, the terrorist is in there. They're freaking out. So they knew, and that's why they had I think that's why they were worried. Like as I got up to go out to the queues, they're just like, watch him, watch him. But yeah, I had a right to be there.
So,
Um,
like when you think about this, what should other people take from it? I mean, should we, I mean, obviously, I'm praying that you get through this Monday thing, and I'm praying that the real situation, the good guys that are coming. I believe we have white hat kind of things going on, but the real people that will kind of come in and say this is all a sickness in the system. What do you want people to kind of know from your experience? What should they take from it?
I wish I remember the saying, but maybe you'll remember this. It's pretty famous. It's where, hey, they didn't. First, they came for. I think it's a Nazi Germany reference or a communism reference. But it's like something about first they came for these people, and I did nothing. Then I came for this group of people, and I did nothing because it wasn't me. And then eventually, on like the third or fourth line, it says, then they came for me, and there was no one else to say anything. That's kind of how I felt like as they came for me, because even in January, if when I was present, I would not have gone. I would not have gone into the building if I knew that they were going to try to twist this into something that it wasn't.
Sure, sure.
And they still came for me because it was part, in my view, it was part of their narrative they were looking for. And then they ruined my life. It seems like as I was in, they started going after parents for disagreeing with their children, getting text changes, and it's just weird targets that they're going after. But I guess what I'm saying is we've got to stand up more, and we've got to say, hey, enough is enough. We see the way that this is going, and not just say what I was saying on January 6th, which is, oh, my life's going really well. I want to ensure before I take a stand that I'm not going to have my life ruined because, I mean, the country's getting ruined as we speak. We've
Yeah,
seen just how
right.
dangerous how much downhill it's gone in the past 4 years, and my message, I guess, in a very messy way, is that we need to do more. and stand up, even if we're at risk. We got to be able to make that sacrifice and stop living so much in comfort. Take a stand and say, hey, what's happening here? This is not right. Our country's going downhill. We
Right. I
got to
mean,
fix
the
it.
Declaration of Independence does give us the right to say no to the government. This
Exactly.
is a right. It is not. We're not talking about, commie, Soviet Union or China. We have the right to say no because you guys are supposed to be constitutional representatives of us, and you have
Mm-hmm.
not done that. And and as their narrative breaks down with Joe, who he's like, this guy's broken. I'm going to do a video about Parkinson's versus dementia, and prove he has dementia with this. It breaks down every bit of their narrative, and you're just the cog that got caught in there. And so I guess my other thing to people is that many people don't want to stand up. I mean, I can tell you, I get, no, I'm not trying to compare myself to you, but I get 700, 800 messages a week, and a good third of them hate my guts and call me
Mm.
every name in the book. I have my credit stolen so many times I can't even tell you. I mean, it's just, but mine's a 2 on a 10 from what you've dealt with that too. But as you stand up, what happens is that the Lord comes and stands before you, and you will find a blessing in that kind of way. And that's kind of what I'm praying over you more specifically is that blessing to come out over you, and that protection, that blood of Jesus protection. And we need to be praying that every day.
Yeah,
So
and I agree. And I will say, what they did intend for bad, as I said, we've done a total 180. We were like the social lepers. Nobody touched us. And now, we hit #1 on the Billboard charts with the beating Taylor Swift singing a song from
right,
jail. We've got crowds of 80,000 plus at Trump rallies chanting "Release the hostages." I mean, total 180. It's just crazy. And so God has really started. You see, like, still the left is still clinching on to this narrative and this hatred for us and trying to peddle that to others. But God has been really awesome. I mean, this couldn't be anything but God in doing a total 180. We were
right.
the we were the worst thing in early January, February, March of 2021, and just, I mean, things have just changed tremendously. And
Well,
on
I
top of
would
that,
say this is
my
that
felony just got overturned by the Supreme Court. So that's amazing too. I mean, I just can't believe that I just have to wait for that to be updated in my case, and then that shows that they wrongfully imprisoned me for at the minimum of 2 years.
so.
And
Wait a
it's just
second.
crazy.
So that case that they were talking about, the J6 case here, very recently in SCOTUS, when they put that forward, tell me what that means again. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, yeah. So this was This was the 28th, if I remember correctly, about 2 weeks ago, 2 Fridays ago today. And so the guy's name is Fisher. It's Fisher versus the United States. It took forever to get up there, but a lot of people were charged with this 20-year maximum nonviolent felony called obstruction of an official proceeding, which
Which you had that under you, right?
that was my only felony. Yeah. And so the way it works is that it's been tossed out. The Supreme Court said it does not apply to us. But now we just have to go through all these individual cases, about 350, if I remember correctly. People have to go up and apply their individual cases, whether at district or appellate level, and say, hey, Supreme Court said this doesn't apply. You got to take this off of my thing. So that could take a couple weeks to maybe a couple months. But once that's done, the nice thing is the probation for me should end. And on top of that, then it shows that they wrongfully imprisoned me for at a minimum of 24 months.
Which
Um,
I believe is I believe, guys, coming when we have the EBS and we have some good things, and when the world changes over, I'm telling you right now, people like Brandon are gonna get paid back, because this government was unrighteous in what they accomplished with that too. The wealth of the wicked is stored up for the righteous, and you are the
yeah, and those
answer
will
to
be
that.
those will be two different lawsuits. The wrongful imprisonment is one,
Yep, yep,
but the separate lawsuit you target is for the unconstitutional conditions they held us in over this.
right.
Um, and I'll still be appealing the misdemeanors because those misdemeanors have a knowingly factor with them. And any time in the past, like I said, they didn't give a dispersal warning, they've thrown those out. Now that case is even seen, even not just Capitol Police, but even DC has similar laws, as seen in the DC Circuit case of Barham v. Ramsey. They just, when they don't do that, and they don't prove that they've done that, charges have been thrown out. So they've been holding us to a different standard. But point
Right.
is, I think God is, God is, maybe he'll financially bless me for this stuff that I've undergone, but I think maybe, it helps give people like me a voice, maybe to help wake people up, or maybe just um, a passion and better understanding in order to help our country or maybe individuals. I still don't know. I'd be very interested in what 10 years brings. I'm
Do you
interested
have
to
a
see what happens.
website as well?
I do not. I
Okay.
have a Twitter. But remember, we
What's
got
your
banned off of
Twitter
everything.
at?
It's like I need to learn how to change. I'm so not. So I was a chimney. I own a chimney company and a tree company, but I'm
Okay.
trying to be on social media. It's like at Brandon F65664. I got to change it to something easier. That's just what Twitter gave me.
Okay.
But
So
yeah,
something like this, maybe.
yeah, it's like something like that, and it's got actually me posing with Capitol Police
Okay.
in
And
what
how
my
many
exhibit
followers approximately have in there, would you say?
8,800
Okay.
something.
So what I'm going
Yeah.
to say to you guys is I'm going to re-put that in there. One of the things that, and this happens for me, is that people find my stuff, and it's some faker. I've got thousands of people faking me with it too. What you're looking for is 8,000 followers, and I'm going to say that here. And I'm going to say, guys, we need to be following what you're doing. So I'm going to bring this up on the screen. So look for about 8,000 followers in this way, so you can find them with that too. And this is how you can kind of stay up with what's going on, but have your voice out there, your message. I mean, your message along with Brandon, and telling people this is the unrighteousness. And I will tell you, all those people in court, the Lloyd Brunson case, by the way, what Lloyd Brunson case does is, again, as we were kind of mentioning before, Lloyd Brunson case says that because you didn't spend time from J6 to January 16th, and you didn't look at the issues, all of you guys are illegal from holding office of any type now or in the future. And it also fires every single 28,000 of the idiots that work with them. And
Mm.
this Lloyd Brunson case, I will tell you, that is the when I talked to Lloyd about this, he said it's the only case I've ever seen that has been keeps getting brought up into court, and then they knock it. I mean, they decline it, and then it gets brought back into court and decline it. It's been done maybe 6 separate times at least. And
Mm.
I'm telling you, it's all related to what you're doing. So you might want to look into that as well, the Brunson case. And in essence, what we have is Brandon here is along the ride around that Brunson case. And it deletes them because they were doing illegal things. So
I will have to look into the Brunson case.
yeah, I think it's a fascinating point. But here's the deal: we need to be supporting people like Brandon. I want you guys to look for him on Twitter, and type in there saying we're praying for you with that too, and your prayers are heard. The Lord hears your prayers with that too. So thanks so much. I really appreciate you coming on. I really appreciate the time, and we're happy to have you around. Do you have any
No,
last
thank you.
messages
Thank
you
you for
want to
having me.
say?
No, just hopefully I'll be still having my freedom past Monday. But either way, even if it does happen, shouldn't be too worried, because I think a maximum it should be a couple months where it's updated in my case. So, and I'll be down here in DC at least probably until January of 2025. So yeah, if you're down here, feel free to hit me up on Twitter if you find me, and maybe we can hang out.
All
That's it.
right. Thanks so much, Brandon. I really appreciate you. We'll
Thank
talk
you.
to
All
you later.
right, bye.